Welcome to Greybeard Syndicate. Today we have the great Karl Erickson with us.
Great, Karl. Great. I think that's the first time I've ever been called that.
The great Karl Erickson. Part of the reason we asked you here today was, well, first let's talk about Karl Erickson before we get into that. What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Getting ready for my trip to Moab, Utah with the Tactical Rifleman Overland team.
Big, long camping trip? Right?
Yeah, we are. You guys know I got that Jeep. I won in that shooting competition. Anyway, I got my off-road camper behind it.
You're welcome.
And, yep, thank you. And yeah, we are, my team, we're going out to Moab, Utah. We're going to go all through the Rocky Mountains, and we're going to do Black Bear Pass, bunch of the fun trails in the Rockies before the snow closes them out. And then we're going to drop down into Moab, Utah, which is Mecca for the off-road guys. Mm-hmm. And basically 15 days of getting away and unplugging. So cool part about my camper is I will drive until I only have one bar on my phone.
Right.
And then I'll go a little bit further.
A little bit further?
Go a little bit further.
Camp.
And I'm going to unplug for a while. So that means, because my YouTube channel, Tactical Rifleman, we put up a new video every Friday. And we haven't missed a Friday in, well, since we started. Shit, we've been doing this over 6 years now. Never missed a Friday. So that means I've got to have all these Friday videos done. And this Friday's video
to make up for those.
Yeah. So,
right.
So while I'm gone.
Schedule.
So my
you
editor,
and Nick have been doing that.
Yeah, me and Nick have been filming B-roll, and some of the videos we got coming. I did a best of the best low power variable optics.
Yeah, big fan of.
Yeah, Night Force, Leopold. Who else did I have? Vortex, EOTech, Steiner. All these companies sent their best scopes, and it's a rough. The video's like an hour long. Everybody's gonna be bored to death, Max. But I have been working. I've been testing these scopes for over 6 months now. Imagine over 6 months to make one video. I've been putting them in the freezer, blocks of ice, and putting them in the oven, and shooting them at distance, and just trying to put the world out a good video, not just regurgitating what's written on the side of the box. And so we got a bunch of B-roll for that video to get caught up on.
Without giving anything away, did a clear winner for Karl Erickson come out of that?
No, and here's why. I'm not big on saying this brand is better than this brand. What I will say is, like when I did the review of optics on pistols, my requirement, what I need for my mission, for my situation, is different than Rossen's situation is going to be, different than what yours is going to be. So low power variable optics is the same thing. You know, price point's a big deal for some people. Some people have more of a designated marksman requirement, where other people have more of a CQB requirement. They're going to run it, and all low power variable optics, you're going to run at 1x 80% of the time.
Right.
But when the time comes, hey, that target is 250, 300 meters away, you have the availability of magnification to ID, is it a threat that warrants deadly force?
Iraq, I ran that Schmidt bender the whole time at 1.1 to 4, I think it was, right? And we had that daylight target remember where one of the ICTF guys was killed, and we went and they sent the pipe hitters into that daylight target.
Yeah.
Well, we were security outside most of the time, so the ICTF could do everything. And
I remember watching you there while I was up behind the
minigun. We got over and look down
that
street, look down those streets. Yeah. You can't do that with a one power red dot. You have to be able to identify threats. That's the reason for it.
That's the whole reason for having the magnification. Now, if you're gonna use magnification all the time, then run a 3 to 10 or a 3 to 15 and have a red dot on the side in case you need it up close. But if you're going to use it as a red dot 80-90% of the time, but you have a small requirement for magnification, low power variable optic, without a doubt, it's going to be perfect. But at the same way, some of these scopes have mil-radian reticles, where other ones have the big EOTech donut to death. And one's better for CQB, one's better for me with the sniper background. We're us together. You're going to want something more geared towards CQB, but I know my holdovers because, guys, our background is he was master assaulter running the assault force, and I was master sniper running the snipers supporting his assault force. So if we go out doing whatever, I'm going to let him run up front, and I'm going to cover you. Let me cover you from back here. Yeah, you don't put a low power variable optic on a minigun. You don't. So anyways, I made a list of what are the different things that not just I would look for in a low power variable optic, but what are some of the things that other people would look for?
Different purposes.
And I came up with, I want to say it's like 9 or 10 different criteria to score them on, basically. And quality of the glass. The lowest price scope there was, I want to say $1,500, and the highest price one was $4,000, and
for one,
just for one scope.
Obviously.
And so basically, all of them had great glass. Literally all of them have great glass.
All of them HD glasses, right?
Oh yeah, it's all HD glass. A lot of them are good Japanese glass, and. So, okay, well, that one, not that big a deal. Some of them were a little easier to see right at sunset or sunrise, which for my hunters out there, it allows you to see that deer 2 minutes earlier in the morning or 2 minutes later in the evening. How much does it? We say gather light, but that's slang for how well does the lens transmit light. But for guys on the battlefield, you understand if I can see the bad guys 2 minutes before they can point that SVD at me, that's a big deal on the modern battlefield. And that's why US SOCOM sends people to SHOT Show every year, because we need the latest and greatest. We need any small advantage we can have over our adversaries. And taxpayers pay top dollar for it. They do, unfortunately. So it's I lay it all out. I didn't let anybody pay me off. A couple of the companies wanted their scopes back. Some of them said...
they wanted the review, but they also wanted them back.
Yeah, they wanted them back.
Some companies said, you know what, keep them.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, Night Force is like, we want them back. I'm like,
well, of course I did.
That's Night Force. But other companies just knew, they're like, now, Carl, we've seen what you do to other scopes. It's not like we can resell it when you're done with it. Only one scope died. And
so the first time I came up there to shoot with you a couple years ago on your property, you broke out your rifle and you just threw it in the gravel because you were actually testing the smaller.
It was a 1X micro prism.
Yes, you were testing it at the time. You just threw it in the ground.
Threw it on the ground.
And I didn't know it was a part of it we were testing at the time.
Yeah.
Carl just don't give a fuck.
When you see me do it, everybody just says, well, this guy's too cavalier. He obviously gets his stuff for free. But when we first started looking at doing the YouTube channel, right, we're going to show how the military shoot, move, communicates. And like some of my first videos I did, like sniper scopes, I did the Smith and Bender 5 to 25 that US SOCOM had just adopted, show what the military has. And I immediately got all these views, comments. Everybody's like, hey, look, Carl, I understand that's what US SOCOM can afford. I can't pay $5,000 for a scope. Show us something we can afford. And it clicked that, well, part of our viewers are people in the military. Part of our viewers are law enforcement, but the majority of my viewers are concerned citizens that want to become capable citizens, or they're people that shoot guns that want to become gunfighters. And they come to people like us because we are a wealth of knowledge, and instead of just, like I said, regurgitating what's written on the side of the box, they want our honest opinions. So why did we go with EOTechs? Well, because I accidentally slammed my M4 in the door of a Humvee that's got a 600-pound armored door on it. I didn't do it on purpose. It's not like I want to break this thing because the taxpayers are going to get me a new one. No, it's shit happens. I have, the helicopter's coming in, and I'm that cool guy that always steps out right before the helicopter touches the ground, touches the soccer field.
Hits the knee.
And so, and I'm looking, So we undo the safety line, and I'm looking, and helicopter's getting ready to stop. So I step out like I always do. Well, it was 10-foot tall elephant grass. And I landed on my head, snapped my NAD mount, lost my one speed reload pistol mag, lost my one speed reload rifle mag. The rest of my stuff was retained, had retainers on them. I only lost one of each mag. But this is stuff you learn. And so I'm like, I'm rough on shit because I've seen shit have to be hard in combat. So I throw my stuff on the ground now, so the viewers don't have to. Right. I would rather have my shit break. And I get people send me optics all the time, and they're like, hey, Karl, when are you going to do this video? When are you going to do a video? And I'm like, look, I told you I will test it. And if I like it, I'll do a YouTube video. I don't mind putting my name behind my opinion. If I don't like it, I won't bash you on the internet. I will give you constructive criticism in writing, form of an email, so you can make your product better. Because if I slam Smith & Bender's new flux capacitor, because it's new and it sucks, the very next year, they might fix it, and it might be the best flux capacitor on the planet, but my video is out there forever slamming it. Yeah. That's not fair to them. So I don't bash shit on the internet. I don't. I am rough on gear.
It's constructive criticism, basically.
Yeah, constructive criticism. So
help them out. You're still helping them out.
For sure.
Even though you're bashing their stuff to them, you're helping them out. And if they don't take that advice, they're just going to drive on with what they're doing, then they deserve what they get.
And I learned that in SF. Steve Holland was our force mod guy, and he would give me kit, a laser rangefinder or a scope or something, and he'd come back and give me another one. I'm like, Steve, why do you keep giving it me? He's like, because you're the only guy that gives me feedback. He's like, all these other teams, they take it, free stuff,
you don't hear shit
and then they never hear shit back. And you tell me the shit sucks, or the shit is this, or the shit it's good, it's bad, and that kind of clicked that. Me just taking the time to stop by his office and give him verbal, and sometimes he'd say, put it in an email. I need what you just said, but I need it in an email.
And so he can produce that.
Yeah, so he can send it out. And it clicked with me that's how you make the world a better place. And the big thing I got from Steve Holland, and a lot of people don't know Steve Holland. He was on a green light team back in the day. That's the guys that would halo in the nukes. Steve started the sniper locker at 5th Group. Steve did so much great stuff for 5th Group. So when it comes time to him to do force modernization for the sniper stuff, I expected Steve to be telling me what I needed. And it stuck with me that he said, you're the guy on the ground right now. So you're the opinion that matters right now. So I'm
right.
I want to hear what you need, and then I will get you what you need. And that's why, like today, I can only give you the opinions on stuff that we know when we learned back in the day. And the laws of physics haven't changed. Mm-hmm. So there are certain things that we'll always be able to give opinions on, but there's a lot of more modern stuff out there now. We've been out literally for decades now, a decade, some of us, but tactics, we're dating ourselves, tactics and techniques and procedures continue to evolve. We don't do tactics on the internet, we do tips, techniques. You want tactics, come take a class.
Speaking of that, I put out an article about 2 weeks ago that
I read it.
I've had some
Yeah.
friends come back to me going, they were a little upset with the article because they didn't think it applied to them. Does that make sense? And they don't realize it applies to everybody.
Yeah, it's everybody. We're talking about the article where guys need to do
About the training, yeah.
better
Yeah.
interactive training.
Yeah, it's
Force
and
on force
more of
type
it.
stuff.
You
More
know,
of it.
Because
Yeah.
so the essence of it was 90% of the people, regardless of their training, when the time comes that they actually have to defend themselves with a handgun or a rifle, I'll just say handgun, the first round is a miss.
Statistically speaking, yes.
It's a miss.
Yep.
And I had some folks come back to me going, I've been training all my life. There's no way I would ever miss. I'm not going to miss. And I'm like, you don't know because
Exactly.
of that. There's training on a flat range, right? And that flat range is canned, meaning you know exactly when you're pulling that gun up, you know exactly what you're shooting at, you know what direction, the whole 9 yards. The weather's nice, the whole nine, everything's great. But yes, does it help you improve?
Yep.
Yes, got it. And then there is like simunition training, force on force type stuff.
Yeah.
Again, amazing. That's amazing training. I got it. But you're not going to die that day.
Exactly.
You're going home.
Yep.
A lot of times they just goof off with that. Just wear each other out.
Yeah.
We've been there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just smoking each other
The
out.
airsoft.
Yeah.
The airsoft guys.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Their
It's-
shootouts it's a paint gun war.
And there's no tactics. Sometimes tactics go out the window with simunitions because they're like, I'm not going to die. Remember when we were in A15?
Yeah.
If there was a SOP we were at odds about, we would sim it. You know what I mean? How Grace is big on that. Big,
Yeah.
How Grace. We would sim it to see how well it turned out. But folks were braver during the SOP development, because nobody was literally shooting real rounds at them, that kind of thing. And then there's simulations like, I have this simulator here and the one at the store. And simulations are great too, don't get me wrong. I'll teach a student, for the first 2 hours, I'll train them on how to use a handgun. And they feel great,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh man, I know what I'm doing now. And then I put them in scenarios and they lose their fucking minds.
Yeah.
The first, there's, like, holy shit, that was too fast. That this scenario would never happen. Yes, it would. And I'm not bashing them. What I'm getting at is there's nothing to prepare you for the real thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Unless you go down to Mexico and become a cartel assassin or something like that, and you get to practice it on the regular or something, But practicing for that death experience that you may or may not experience, the physiology, the chemicals in the body.
Yeah, you start going
The
into
reaction
fight or
of the
flight.
neural system in
Yes,
general,
yeah, all that
fine
stuff
versus gross motor skills
is
and all that stuff.
completely different in that scenario than it is in simunitions, simulator, or flat range.
Yeah.
You can't train for that. And
Even probably the best one you can do, and it's with live ammo, is called Troy's Gate.
I think I mentioned that to you. Choice Gate.
Troy's Gate, it's up in North Carolina. It's open to the public if anybody's interested in going and doing it. But they have different scenarios, and it's basically a mirror, like in a haunted house. And so you're there, and you concealed carry firearm, open gun belt. They even have a sniper scenario. And the way the mirror is set up is when the role players come in, they are, it's very interactive. It's not computerized. These are human role players. And if it's a no-shoot scenario and you shoot, you understand your ass would be going, real life, you'd be going to jail. All right? But most of them they eventually reach the point where they're shoot scenarios. But even then, and the guy falls. The guy, the role players are hired for their acting skills. And, that big dramatic death, the guy falls down. And he can see basically where it hit the mirror. So he knows whether you winged him in the arm or whatever, and he responds to it. It's very, very realistic training. I'm going to eventually get my camera crew up there to up in the mountains of North Carolina, and we're going to film it.
So it's
for
a
tactical
real-time
riflemen.
response from the
Yes.
role players.
Yeah.
And I think the role players are like right next to you. You're in a booth.
It's
right?
actually L-shaped.
Yeah, and there's a reflection that comes
it's a
off that,
45-degree mirror.
so they can use live guns.
But even with that, and these are people like you will have nightmares about this afterwards because you actually just shot at another human being. At the sniper
not a
one-
paper target on a wall.
No, it's not a paper target and it's not simunitions. It is live ammo. Sularoo, again, famous sniper, hated by every officer on the planet, every sergeant major. Sularoo, multiple confirmed kills with a sniper rifle. He did their sniper scenario where he sat back with the sniper rifle, and he told me, and I haven't shot that scenario. I'm looking forward to shooting it. He said when he drove home that afternoon, he couldn't forget. I mean, his heart would immediately start racing again because he dropped the hammer on a human being. The guy actually went down in the room and crumpled. And understand even that as close to being realistic and pushing you into, you guys remember biology class, sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. And I don't mean to talk over everybody's heads. I started as a SF medic. So you start going into fight or flight, and you have all these different chemicals dumped in your bloodstream. Certain vessels dilate, other vessels constrict. But you have all these physiological changes happening in your body, and that's the part that training you can only get so much of. And your hair stands up. Why? Well, some scientists say it's like a cat, the hair standing up trying to make you look bigger. And there are other scientists that say, well, it's like whiskers on a dog. So in the dark, if you brushed up against me, I'd feel you at 1 inch sooner. Your pupils dilate. Why do your pupils dilate? It didn't get darker in here. Your pupils dilate because your brain is screaming
stress,
for more information.
More information. Right.
More information. But on that point, you saying you're going to close your non-dominant eye in combat, just because you always do it in training, you always close that non-dominant eye. You saying you're going to close your non-dominant eye in a gunfight is the same as you saying you're going to keep your heart rate at 60 beats a minute.
Yeah.
It's not, you have zero control over it. But if you train proper, I shoot with both eyes open. I know you guys do also. And we do stress tests. We try to get the heart rate up to simulate being in fight or flight. The parts we literally can't do is oh my God, this is really happening right now.
Things like
I'm getting ready to go to court.
You're thinking about legal
Yeah.
ramifications on this.
But it's
can
your
I
whole
shoot
life
this
flashing
guy?
before your
Everything,
eyes.
everything, your whole life, your family's
Yeah.
lives, their family lives are all about to change.
You can't replicate that. We try the best we can. One thing I thought was neat was, and you guys hear me preach about the Vulcan reticle in
I use
my
the
pistol.
shit out of it. Yeah.
All right, and then those of you that aren't familiar with it, everybody knows that EOTech donor to death. Right? That's not it. It's a aiming point in the middle, whether it's a chevron or a dot, but then it's a huge outer circle that's basically right at the edges of your field of view. And where it comes in handy, and a lot of competitive shooters say you don't need it because if you practice presenting the pistol, you'll always have that dot. You'll always find it, and that's fair. But when you start shooting around vehicles, odd positions around vehicles, barricades,
single-handed, or a high level of stress.
Because think about laying on your side.
That lowest port on the VTEC barrier.
Yeah. Gravity lays on your arms different, and there's actually police departments that switch the dots, but they ended up switching back to iron sights. And I said, why did you switch? And they're like, well, because when we were in the shoot houses doing force on force, we couldn't find our dots.
The dots, yeah.
Why? Well, it's because they're not looking at they're looking downrange, which they're supposed to, but they're not standing square like this. They're hiding around furniture, they're pieing. And
there's that level of stress too, because
that level of stress.
Level of
is there.
stress can affect on the proprioceptive skills, degrades the proprioceptive skills, and this is where you actually can guess exactly what the muscle groups or tendons are orientated in the space.
Yeah.
That can degrade under stress as well. So
so that reticle helps take. It gives you a little margin of error when Murphy's on your back.
If your gun is out of torque,
Yeah.
it shows you which way to move your gun to put it back on.
In
center.
other words, if you can't see your dot, you can't find your dot, but you got a line like this, that means move the front of the gun that way. And when you turn it, all of a sudden your dot, if it's like this, move the gun that way. If it's like this, raise the front of the gun. If it's like this, lower the front of the gun.
but it's good because if you present it correctly, you don't see the actual circle.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
so you see just the red dot.
Yeah.
So
Just a red
I
dot.
get in my simulator in town. I have older folks like us that are asking me, what about a dot? And I was like, okay, I fully encourage you to get a dot, but I need you to look at this dot. And they're like, well, I've never held one before. I was like, I need a class. No, you don't. Let me clear my Glock 48, right?
Yeah.
Clear my Glock 48. I said, all right, put the gun up, find a dot. And they immediately do this, and then they turn it because they automatically know which way to turn it without any instructions.
Yeah.
It's genius dot, sold by Primary Arms only,
Yeah.
right? Because
Primary Arms, the guy that actually invented the Vulcan reticle, his name's Dimitri. He lives outside of Vegas.
Yeah.
He showed it to me on paper, and I went, meh.
I show it to them on whiteboard, and they do the same thing until I.
He actually laughed. He said, I showed it to Trijicon. I offered it to Trijicon first to put it in the RMR that the whole military is using. And they went, meh. So when Primary Arms, of all people, Primary Arms, when Primary Arms said, yeah, we'll do it, they contracted Holosun to put it exclusively for Primary Arms in a couple of optics. And he sent me one, and I was like, holy shit, dude, this is, and I don't use the term game changer. I've only used it one other time, and that was the early 90s when the first reflex sight showed up for the M4.
Right.
We went from iron sights on a rifle where basically, and the old Green Berets were like, well, for CQB, you don't even use your sights. You just point the gun. You don't even use your sights. And there's actually schools that say, don't use your sights because you're not going to be able to use them when you're in fight or flight. Just point shooting, point shooting, point shooting. The reality is, what they're talking about when they say point shooting is, it is very hard when you're in fight or flight because remember, you're scared to death. You're so scared your pupils literally dilate. It is hard for you to pull your focal plane off of the bad guy to properly line up sights on a pistol. And that's why your Delta operators with their 1911s, they would shoot 1,000 rounds a day, 5 days a week. And that focal yo-yo, moving it, all right, yes, it's a target that warrants deadly force, bring it back to the sight alignment, shoot, move it back to the bad guy. Did I hit? Did I get the desired effect? If not, move it back to the sights and shoot again. If you did, are there any other threats? That's the focal yo-yo. I can't shoot 1,000 rounds a day.
That's one of the effects of stress, flattening of the lens of the eye, so that accommodation effect degrades tremendously.
Very, very
really
fast.
Well, yeah.
So the number one selling point of a dot is not that it makes you more accurate. It doesn't. It's not that it makes you faster. It doesn't. The number one selling point of a dot is it allows new shooters and experienced shooters and even professional shooters that are not Delta operators. He does not shoot 1,000 rounds a day. You don't. We can't afford that. We can't afford it. All right. It allows you to keep your focal plane on the bad guy because that's what you're going to do in real life when you're scared to death. You're not going to be able to not focus on the bad guy. You're going to have to focus on him. While presenting that firearm, you don't have to move your focal plane back for equal height, equal light anymore. You don't have to do that. You literally just stay focused on the bad guy, put the dot where it needs to be.
Yeah, superimpose the dot over it.
And
And that's something that we do not have control over.
It
You
is
always,
huge.
in a moment of stress, in danger, you always focus on the danger first. That's it.
You can't help
cannot.
it. You can't help it. So
Which-
that happened back in the 90s with rifles. We've got our first reflex sights, and that this is a game changer. And you know, every year at SHOT Show, everybody's got something new at SHOT. Every year, you have to. But the only time I've said this is a game changer, and I've got to play with all the sexy kid on the planet, everything, for 20 freaking years, 30 years now. 30, God, I'm getting old. The early 90s was a long time ago, but only at that Vulcan reticle, because it allows you to quickly find that dot. And
It's such a simple, but at the same time, genius.
Right.
Genius.
I told Primary Arms, I basically, I met the president and the founder and everything, and I let, look, I understand it's a money thing. They're holding the patent. Because they want to put out their own U.S. made one to then sell to the military. And I'm like, look, you're screwing these other companies, like the Horus Vision reticle and sniper scopes. When it first came out, Night Force and Smith & Bender would have to pay Dennis Samet, the owner of Horus Vision, they'd have to pay him $200 to put his reticle in their scopes. And Night Force didn't want to do it. And we'd be like, we're not buying your scopes if it doesn't have the Horus in it. That's how important it was. So it got so bad, Night Force finally bought Dennis out. Night Force owns Horus Vision now. But I told EOTech, talking to them, I'm like, look, I don't care if you need to steal the patent, modify it a little bit, make your own, but you've got to put this in your pistol optics. You've got to do it. So there's Primary Arms has a new U.S. made one, but they haven't worked the bugs out on it yet because they've never built one here before. You know, if they would just give that reticle to Trijicon and let them put it in adult optics, because they've been making pistol optics forever. You know, the whole planet would run them. They would.
I mean, you're in bed, 2 a.m, enjoying your CPAP, the whole 9 yards. You know, you're sitting there sleeping, and somebody breaks into your damn house at 2 a.m.
Alarm going off.
You throw that damn CPAP off, and you're running it, and iron sights are going to be useless to you.
Yep.
You can't see the damn things, especially if you can't find your glasses. Right. A single dot is going to. You're already going to be nervous enough as it is. You know what I mean? And then you try to find that one, like all you see is blackness out there, and you're trying to find your dot. But that Vulcan reticle, I mean, something is going to show up in your screen and direct you where you got to go. It helps you out.
You don't need it in a rifle because you have
points of contact.
It's not more. You have more points of contact. You still have the pistol grip. You have your second point, front of the gun. You have the third point. But a lot of people don't realize that once you mount the gun and you touch that familiar spot on the cheek weld, because it's familiar because we've done it hundreds and hundreds of times on the flat range, what that's doing is it's automatically centering the lens in your eye behind that optic. And you never have a hard time finding the optic on your rifle, but it's because of those other 3 points of contact. You don't have that with a pistol. And a lot of people say, well, I'm not running it on my pistol. My pistol's my backup. That's fine. I don't carry a rifle for a living anymore. You know, I don't.
I don't carry it to,
No.
But it's helpful. On pistol, it's red dots are helpful.
Very much so. You still need a light on it.
Sure.
But there's no, there are people that swear by lasers. Visible lasers. I'm not a fan of them because they're great on paper, they're great on steel. That's not real life because you get used to seeing the laser and bringing it up onto the target. Well, real life, just if you look around the studio, all the furniture outside, grass blowing, tree branches, you can't find it, and now you're looking for a dot, but you can't because you're fight or flight, you're stuck looking at him. And so I'm not big on
Laser, like
lasers.
disco show of laser.
Yeah.
No,
So, but
lasers are good for nods, running IR lasers when you can't get a good cheek weld.
But there's something else that
even
gets
then-
in our way too,
Yeah.
and that would be our conscious.
Oh yeah.
Our-
Yeah.
Something else gets in our way besides, fight or flight or the wrong laser or lack of training, and it is. I'm a big fan of the Rossen Hristov TPC training.
The doctrine.
The doctrine of conscious, subconscious thing. Explain that in just a touch.
Yeah. First of all, we learn through our conscious mind, through our logic and intellect, right? So, conscious mind operates with metrical data, facts, in general. But we perform through our subconscious mind, right? We have a skill that it needs to be ingrained in our subconscious mind so we can just apply it without thinking about it, apply it in the right way. The subconscious do not understand simple facts, or empirical facts. It works through visualization, through symbols, through tales. So there's a shortcut to kind of directly involve the subconscious mind in the process through mental analogies or visualizations that we like to say. The one thing is the nutcracker that teaching in TPC. At the moment that the student actually visualize something that it's familiar with from the daily life activities, the subconscious mind will engage the proper muscles and tendons to achieve that effect without overthinking and go too technical about it. But the main idea is some of the shooting skills you need to ingrain in your subconscious mind. Like in a real situation, somebody is sending some pieces of lead towards you. You're not going to think about pulling the trigger straight back, isolating only the trigger finger with minimal speed. With constant speed and minimal effort. It needs to become subconscious in order to still be accurate there, right? The problem is that sometimes when you over try or you're in a really high level of stress, you start overthinking about that stuff. And this is where the conscious mind wants to take over because it's something very important for you. That actually degrades your ability to perform really well in a situation, which is kind of a strange a game of tricksters, how to train to shut down the conscious mind in such kind of situation.
Let's say a baseball outfielder, right? And all day long they can sit there and catch fly balls, in a game, no problem. But the one time it goes off the edge of their glove and bounces up, you see them kind of freak the fuck out. You know what I mean? Because their conscious takes over now because, I got to catch this damn thing now. It's not like normal stuff.
Or if you want to do something, in front of the camera and shoot really well, at some point you start to care too much about it.
That happens.
And that leads to many.
Like when we're talking, when
attempts.
we're bullshitting back and forth, we're having a great time bullshitting.
Yeah.
Until Dylan, hey Dylan. Dylan reaches up there and hits the record button, and then we lose our fucking minds. We're like, what the hell what are we going to talk about again?
I've been doing this so long, I've just learned not to give a shit.
That's right. But shooting yesterday, we were doing some drills, and during practice, prior to us doing any recording, killing it, right? Boop, hit that thing there, forgot how to work, there's a bunch of little things that just bite your ass.
Because you're over trying. You try to do it perfect. And this is where the conscious mind kicks in. I want to do it better and better because right now I care. It can happen, in my opinion, in a real situation as well because now, the value is way bigger right now. Your life or somebody else's life, it's put on a line.
Yeah, your wife, your kids, it's like their lives matter right now. It's going to be
even though they're not even in the scene. Your brain is thinking about them too at the same time, plus all the other shit, this and that.
So it's the level of stress and all that physiological factors behind the stress, but also the conscious mind start to kick in because that's so important. Right now, it's a matter of life and death, which adds additional layer of the stress.
And you can't replicate that in training. You can't.
cannot.
Train, do force on force as often as you can. Do the simulators. You use smokeless rain.
And cool fire.
Yeah, cool with a
So
cool
get
fire,
recoil.
gas operated. Your real guns, but runs off of compressed gas. I use one called Point Blank Simulator.
Right.
Again, good stuff. But I still use the Cool Fire Trainer. Train that, but understand you're still not getting the full level of stress. Doing force on force, you're still not getting the full level of stress. You're just not. And you see guys, operators, Green Berets, Rangers, whatever, that they'll literally do so many ops, and they're the toughest guys you ever met. And then I know I left our old unit. I was off doing whatever, and this I forgot who it was. I think it was Chris Papard or somebody said, "Yeah, did you hear about such and such?" I'm like, "Oh, dude, he said, yeah, man, we had to move him down to the schoolhouse." I'm like, "Why'd you do that? Maybe get a DUI or something?" And no, he lost the edge. And it happens that staying in, and when they talk about different levels of awareness and different levels of fight or flight, you go yellow, orange, red, and then guys get completely into the black, completely overwhelmed. You can only stay in the red for so long. You train to stay in the orange. And the more you do it, the longer you can stay in the orange. Because basically once you get off the helicopter till you get back on it, you're in the orange. Every corner, every doorway, literally your life can be ending on the other side of it. Once it starts, you're in the red. You can only stay in the red for so long. But the guys get exposed to it so many times, they actually get better at it. They get better at responding to it. And you're like, that guy he's that 1%er, he is that warrior. It's like, man, if I had a company of him, I could take over the whole world. And then, hey, did you hear what happened to him? Like, what? He lost the edge. Like, dude, he's one of the best assaulters I've ever met in my life. But you can only do it for so long before, and I don't know what it is, and I believe it is different for different people. You just eventually you lose the edge, and unfortunately it happens to people you wouldn't think it would happen to. It's just part of it. You never, but before you even get that far, the whole you don't know how you're going to react under gunfire, and we saw that too. When the towers fell. Some of the toughest Green Berets you ever met in your life. I'm not going to say his name out loud on here because he still lives about 20 miles from me. Super great guy. Lantern jaw, just total, right, poster child for special ops. He came back from Halo school and he's like, nah, I can't. He got scared to death just parachuting. I'm like, dude, chicks parachute. Chicks parachute. Wow. How are you going to handle going into the room with 4 or 5 bad guys in it, if you can, but you just never know until you get that scared. You just never know.
Neurology, it means it's a mystery.
CQB is not for everybody. All Green Berets would have to do SURFALC, Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat, but most Green Berets did not belong in our company. They just did not belong there because those guys are mental. Those assaulters, that's a special kind of fucked up right there.
7-meter gun. Suluru's going out.
Not me.
Fucking assaulters, you're goddamn
I'm one of the
7-meter gun
normal
fights.
guys. I'm one of the normal guys. But yeah, you and your assaulters, day after day. Good stuff.
And even in competition, shooting, I truly believe that it's about 90-95% mental. At
Very
the moment
much so,
that
yeah.
you have, core skills polished and all that stuff, everything else is just race towards yourself.
And the combat guys that bash competition shooting, they're like, no, don't. I encourage people to shoot competition because anytime you're manipulating your firearms under the stress of the timer, you're working manipulating your firearms under stress. And there's a couple things that they do in competition that are not tactically sound.
For sure.
Right? But other than that, that's as close as you're going to get to being in fight or flight when you're running a big
Especially
stage.
that little blue demon.
Oh, the mind eraser, pro timer.
You go through the whole stage, the whole 9 yards. Go, okay, I'm ready. This is what I'm going to do. Blah blah blah.
Shooter ready, stand by.
And then you forget where, you forget where you're at, your name, your child's names.
That whole plan.
You forget everything and lose your mind on that. And that's where you should, again,
Call
when
your-
you do those
yeah.
drills, always drill with a
Biochemical
beeper.
processes are pretty similar to what's going on in combat. Not all of them, but biochemistry in general,
yeah.
adrenaline rush and accelerate
Pull
the
that
heart
first thing out
rate.
and whiff that first round.
Yep.
Holy shit, I forgot everything.
why,
Where's my mags?
Three-gun matches, I always like the mystery stage because to me, our upbringing in a direct action unit, which is you don't get to rehearse the gunfight ahead of time. If you had the layout of the building, we might do tape drills out in the parking lot. But
we're guessing at that layout.
But there's
99% of the
nothing
time.
like actually going through that door for the first time. And so yeah, there's stage walkthroughs. I'm like, man, if only combat you could get stage walkthroughs in combat. Shit, that'd make life so much easier, so much easier. The raid to get Bin Laden, you know, they crashed that helicopter there. You know why the helicopter crashed? A lot of stuff, they release it, but it never clicks in people's heads. It's because when they built the mock-up and the SEAL Team 6 rehearsed that hit that many times, instead of having a concrete wall, they had a chain link fence. So when the helicopter came in, the rotor wash was passing through the chain link fence.
Right.
Okay.
They go to do it in real life, not a concrete
And it's
wall.
coming all the way back through.
Air
Yeah.
starts doing this, and small things.
And with those birds, particular birds, their lift
Yeah.
capabilities and all that were
Yeah,
changed
yep.
because of the way
it
they
was
were.
changed.
Right.
So small things that after the fact they're scratching their heads, going, "Yeah, we should have thought of that." You know, we're the best pilots on the planet. We should have thought of that. But armchair generals will always find ways for you to do things better after the fact.
So we've determined that we suck when it comes to that
Yes.
moment. We got to pull our handgun out and shoot it, right? At least at first, until we go, all right, I can calm down now and shoot my pistol properly. You know, you never get that amount of time, do you? It just doesn't happen.
Nope.
So,
Yeah.
but based off of optics, your brain, right, and what type of training you've been doing, you have to put all that together all at
And
one
then
time.
perform
And
under
then-
stress.
Right, and somehow make that stress more. Again, I think the Troy's Gate might be the closest answer, right? You know, my simulator, it is people, don't get me wrong, but it's still a simulator.
Yeah. It's better than a computer TV screen.
Correct, exactly.
Yeah. And I watched people going to go do it. While we were up at Mountain Readiness Expo, they were getting ready to get in a vehicle to go there, and they were already stressing out. That basically, and I thought it was funny. I'm laughing at them because this is two guys with their wives. The wives were going to do it also, right? Concealed carry permits for wives. So. But they were stressing out. I could see their heart rates up already because they know they're getting ready to go get in a gunfight. And I'm like, look, you're going to be carrying your purse with your revolver in it, just like you do every day. But they were amped up because they know they're getting ready to get in a gunfight. That's every time Byron went to go get on the helicopter. You're sitting there, you just did the satellite imagery, the day walkers, the intel guys just gave the mission briefing. We did rehearsals,
Baseball
comm
cards.
checks, baseball cards in the quarterback playbook. And you're walking out to the helicopter and nobody's saying it out loud, but you're like, holy shit, we're on our way. This could go one of two ways. This could be just another hit, like last night was a success, or this might be a beehive. This you don't know till you get there, and every time you get on the helicopter like that, you're like, man. So me watching those two civilians with their wives getting ready to get in the van and drive to Troy's Gate. It's like a half-hour drive from where we were. I was like, yeah, good luck. I had zero sympathy for them because we lived for it. We lived for, now we want to get on the helicopters. We want to go do this. But it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody.
And that's with all that factors of stress, a random stimulus, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But still, if you don't dedicate enough time for actual technical skills of shooting, and especially handguns, they're very perishable skills, right?
Very much so, yeah.
You need to maintain, you need to feed the neural system to stay, still with your grip and everything. And if you don't train just the technical skills, I truly doubt you can accept that you will be adequate with all that emotional stress to react properly and to also be accurate.
I've met people who are like, if somebody came to my house, I'd beat their ass. I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You would get your ass handed to you, and he would take all your shit.
Everybody thinks they're going to rise to the occasion.
Right.
The reality is you fall back on your level of training, but it's not a stack of books. I've been to this class and this class and this class and this class. You mentioned a minute ago that it's perishable. And what we mean by perishable, and they've done studies, when you graduate Safartech or hostage rescue school, you're one of the best assaulters on the planet because you've been training together for 9 weeks. But what they have found, when you hit day 21, all of a sudden you start to lose about 4% of your skill each day. So if you haven't done anything 21 days after graduating, you're still awesome. You still don't know anything, but you're awesome. But at day 22, you're 4% less awesome. Day 23, you're 8% less awesome. Now that doesn't sound bad, but think about the Marines that deploy for 12 months and they're put up on some mountain in Afghanistan, some little outpost, and they don't shoot, they don't train. They're doing roving patrols in them, but they're not doing their battle drills, they're not doing their up drills, they're not maintaining, they're not dry firing on their own time. Their squad leaders are not making them practice and do those dry fire drills. The moment of truth when the Taliban finally, 9 months later, finally attacked their little outpost with 400 guys. That's why you hear reports of the Army and the Marine units. Well, these guys didn't even shoot, they just cowered. These guys, their guns shit the bed. These guys weren't hitting nothing, so they immediately threw their guns on full auto. And then their guns overheat. And they're still not hitting anything. And so that's, and you again study history, and that's why we try to push, hey, at a minimum every 2 weeks, you need to be, even if it's just a box of 50 rounds, get out every 2 weeks. I know it's hard in the wintertime, it's hard around the holidays, but the best shooters on the planet dry fire. They dry fire a lot, and they're the best shooters on the planet. They dry fire a lot because nobody can afford the real ammo. And
there are people who can't afford real ammo,
but they don't. They don't do it.
We know who they are.
Yeah, but they don't have the time. A lot of them don't have the time to do it. So, but that requires a discipline for you to say, I need to get my reps in because, and it's not just because Karl and Byron and Rossen said, hey, I need to do this every 21 days. It's the statistics don't lie. You're a mammal, and we haven't evolved very much in 30,000 years. You're going to lose that skill. Yes, you can jump back on a bicycle 30 years later, but you're not riding that bike as good as you did 30 years prior.
Guilty.
Shooting's the same. So you've got to be disciplined enough to build those habits, make it habits. Dry firing. I know Rossen dry fires more than I do, but I know I dry fire a lot more than the average person that carries a gun does. Where I put my phone at night on the charger, and I have a rechargeable light on my pistol. So my EDC pistol gets cleared, and I got my little cable that goes on the light, and I've made it a habit that I do not mess with my phone in the morning until I've dry fired I dry fire in the mirror on myself with whatever clothing I'm gonna wear that day, and it's just become second nature. If I'm traveling, I do it in the morning in the mirror in the hotel room, and before class. It's become a habit, and just those 5 draws, just a real quick 5 draws back, click, go back to holds, go click, all right, load it, put it away. I'm done for the rest of the day. Just that alone, you'd be surprised how much that allows you to maintain that skill that you've developed when you pay to go take that 2-day class, or you've gone out and you've blown those 500 rounds a day. You've got to maintain that skill. You really do.
Because consistency is more important than quantity, right?
Yes.
It means you don't need to, let's say, go and shoot 1,000 rounds once per month.
Yeah.
If you do, let's say, 25 rounds, let's say 3 times a week, it will be way more beneficial than if you go just once. Or same thing with the dry fire, right? Mm-hmm. If you do a dry fire, at least, let's say, 20 or 50 dry fire shots every day, it will be way more beneficial than if you dedicate one full day once a month.
Just dry fire,
Right.
You need to feed the neural system constantly.
So, what have you got coming up real soon? What classes you got?
September is I will be back. I'll be back mid-September, and then we roll right into classes. Gun Runner Pistol, which is a 2-day class. Everybody on the planet, I don't care if you're a new shooter, I don't care if you're an IPSC Grandmaster, everybody needs to master the fundamentals better, because I guarantee you, no matter how awesome you think you are, your grip sucks. And that's just the truth. My grip sucks. I could use 2 days of Rossen and Emery making my grip better and my techniques better. And so that's a 2-day class. It's no tactical shooting at all. It is 2 days of mastering the fundamentals of pistol shooting. That's the best, hands down class I could give you. That is a weekend. I want to say it's the 13th and 14th of September, or whatever.
Is it Montgomery County?
No, it's actually in Hopkinsville, Cedar Creek Precision.
Right.
And again, we start with that because all the fundamentals of pistol marksmanship apply to rifle marksmanship. That's where it does. The following day is a Monday. That's Combat Pistol 101. That is our entry class to combat shooting. We use a pistol, but it's all combat shooting, sun up to sundown. The following 2 days, Combat Pistol Carbine, and there's a night shoot the first day. That's a 2-day class. You're going to be shooting and moving and doing barricades and all your failure drills, zipper drills, box drills, learning how to run that gun, manage the recoil on it. And we get into malfunctions and TAC-MAG reloads versus speed reloads, vice versa.
And that's such a fun class.
Yes, you loved it, right? That's Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday is Carbine Zero Mastery, where we teach about point blank zero on the guns. So you're looking, 200 meters for a 5.56 gun. And in other words, the bullet does not rise more than 5 inches or drop more than 5 inches out to about 220, 230. That keeps you inside a head-sized target. So we do a 200-meter point-blank zero. We find you where your inside zero is. Where does it cross line of sight? Because some people teach that's 36. Other people say it's 50. Well, who's right? The reality is it matters what your height over bore is, what your muzzle velocity is, weight of your bullet, and it's going to be different for your setup versus your setup versus mine. So we get the guns dead on balls at 200, and then we bring the targets in, and we actually move the targets back and forth to find out where your sweet spot is. For example, my rifle is 47 meters when I'm using 62 grain with that height optic. All right, 13.7 inch barrel, 47 meters, my sweet spot. Then we do we get you your data at 250, 300, 350, and 400 meters. So at the end of the class, and it's all 5-shot groups all day long.
Right.
It's very,
just talking
very
about
laid
5-shot
back.
groups.
Yeah.
You leave at the end of the day learning more about the fundamentals of rifle marksmanship, which you'd be surprised how many people don't know how to zero a gun.
And there are so many small
Yeah.
details that can
Yes.
be extremely
Small
useful,
things,
right?
yeah. The small things, bone support, muscular relaxation, breathing, little tips that we've learned over 40 years of doing this stuff. Then the following day is Battle Rifle 1. Battle Rifle 1 is all targets 50 to 300. So if you've got that red dot, you want to put a magnifier behind it, you run a low power variable optic, you want to bring your plate carrier, you don't have to do any of that, or you're encouraged to. And we talk about using designated marksmen. We talk about using a automatic rifleman in your team. And it's all individual skills, but it's to build you up to Battle Rifle 2, where you're actually going to be shooting as a member of a team. And we're not doing Battle Rifle 2 this year because I don't have enough graduates of Battle Rifle 1. But anyway, Battle Rifle 1, you actually start with a 3-day pack. You've got to have all your gear, everything. And you'd be surprised how many people have never thought about going to prone with a 3-day pack.
Trying to look like this.
Do you put your sling over it? Do you put your sling under your straps? Because you understand if you've done one or the other, you're knotting yourself up and you look like a dumbass on the ground. Fun course. Again, that is a Friday. And then that's it. But it is 8 days straight classes. You don't have to do all of them. You can do any one. You can do all of them.
And they can find these on tacticalrifleman.com.
Tacticalrifleman.com. You sign up there. Other classes. Tactical drone defense is in November. I have a.
And that's here on this property.
That's here on this property. December we have high risk travel, which is situational awareness, counter surveillance, terrorism operations. We even get into escapology, how to get out of flex cuffs, tape, ropes, chains, lock picking, handcuffs, how to make expedient handcuff keys, things like that.
That's also great fun.
The good class. And
very
then
good class.
also in December, we have our low light, no light shooting class.
Which is awesome class.
Yeah,
by the way.
Same as we just did?
We just did.
Okay.
We're going to do that again in December. We start off with weapon mounted lights, pistol and rifles, and for a couple hours, and then we get straight into a night vision. AGM Global Vision has agreed to sponsor the course. We've got brand new Ghost White Phosphor PVS 14s. They provide all the D-ball, aiming lasers, everything, helmet mounts. If you want to bring a helmet, you don't need to because the nods literally come complete. They got the green bag with the skull crusher. And when we cover advantages of having it over the dominant eye, advantages of having it over the non-dominant eye with a pistol, and then the same thing with a rifle, advantages of having over one eye than the other, and we make you do all of it. And I've been to and I've seen a lot of night vision classes that people put out, other social media, and I'm not bashing them, but it's basically just doing pew-pew. Mm-hmm. And that's not mastering night vision. The shooting part is such a small part. It's learning that you can't just turn your eyes. You have to turn your head.
And we saw that in the CQB portion I taught at the end. They're very...
With the small shootouts.
They're right there like this, when they could have just turned on their illuminator or their
seen a lot
flood,
more of
and
it,
they go, holy shit, I can see everything now.
And the perception of depth is different.
Yeah.
What do you got going on? Tactical Performance Center.
Tactical Performance Center, we have some instructor development classes. And it's all about the doctrine that we call the reactive shooting science. So
Which you were talking about.
Yeah, so we're learning how to self-diagnose, which kind of can help you to eliminate a lot of sleepless nights right? Why did I miss? Why did I miss? You will know what happened exactly at that moment, and you know how to apply the fix at that very moment as well, without hesitation. So all these instructor development classes are about, how efficiency, when you're talking about reactive marksmanship, when you're talking about practical marksmanship, that's the focus, that's our bread and butter. And also ability to deliver that information in a proper way, so you keep the subconscious mind engaged as well, and kind of help the students understand that not only technically, but also on the proprioceptive level. So to understand what's going on with the different muscle groups and tendons, and how to actually develop that proprioceptive awareness. Because a lot of people don't pay enough attention on small isolation. And really, if you want to go to the really kind of a high level of shooting, you need to learn how to pay attention about that small things. Little corrections here and there, a little bit more pressure right there. It can have a drastic improvement in your accuracy under speed. Because everybody can be accurate when speed is not involved, or everybody can pull the trigger fast.
Yeah.
But to combine both, it's kind of it's a challenge, right? So that's our main focus in general, how to be accurate under speed and how to be more effective when you with manipulations and everything. So it's a kind of a very scientific segmentation of all the material, and the idea is to understand it in depth. You need to be able to answer 4 simple questions: what, how, when, and why. That's the idea. And we'll focus a lot on why. A lot of schools do not explain why. We are really big on why.
So they find at tacticalperformancecenter.com.
Tacticalperformancecenter.com, exactly.
And find your classes, the whole 9 yards, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So what everyone doesn't know is that Rossen and I and Emery have a company called Greybeard Syndicate. This right here, and we developed this to help these type of this community.
I just don't have the beard.
And promote each other through this, and help sell merch also, right? So, but it's not just about selling merch. It's more about promoting TPC. What's Emery's company? PCT, Prime Combat Training.
Prime Combat Training.
Right, I get confused on the TPC. Black
All
Armor
these
Guns.
3 letters,
Right. Tactical Rifleman, Black Side Armory. Different companies that come in, and we'll put out newsletters for them. Monthly newsletters, and so on and so forth. But we will have merch from folks on there also. So. GreybeardSyndicate.com.
It's just a community.
Yeah, it's just a community. That's all we're trying to do is make all ships rise. You know what I mean? So folks can find that training in one spot if they wanted to or whatever. Just trying to help everybody out. If we were in it to make money, we're going to go poor. I'll tell you that right now. We're going to be eating ramen because
I didn't join the military to make money. That's for sure.
That's right. So that is it. You guys have anything else for us? I know you got a trip coming up. Did you get your package delivered?
I did.
Okay.
Actually, my son's taking it to the UPS store for me. So.
And is that the optics that you were sending back?
Yeah, the ones that we didn't sell.
Broken.
No, cool part.
Sounds broken, most likely, sir. But it was something nice.
The end of the class, the students actually have the chance to buy the brand new nods that they were using, but basically at my price. So it's a good deal. It's definitely a good deal.
No, I think Doc. Was it bought?
Which one?
No, I'm sorry. Paul bought something last time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Paul was a doc. We had 3 doctors in that same class. Ain't that crazy? Yeah. Paul bought a set. I ended up selling 4 out of 9 of them.
Not bad.
That's fine.
Not bad. You got anything else?
That's what it is. That's the main focus over there. So we have a handgun mastery, we have a carbine mastery, we have instructor development, and more classes are under development. So fun stuff. Never-ending story. Never-ending story.
So thank you for joining us. We're just sitting there bullshitting is all we're doing anyway. Visit Greybeard Syndicate, Tactical Performance Center.com. Tactical Performance Center, Tactical Rifleman.
Here we go.
I
left.
forgot about mine.
The other
Black armor guns, and be kind to each other and watch your six.